know from proven experience that mentoring is a really powerful leadership development intervention that organisations can deploy with really good success. We've also seen from experience reverse mentoring is particularly powerful, whereby the power dynamics are flipped on their head, so the more senior person is there to learn and the less senior person is there to share their understanding and lived experience of what it feels like to be them within that organisation. Reciprocal is taking it a step further. Reciprocal is about a powerful alliance for change. It's about two individuals coming into a room as human beings and sharing their collective lived experience. So the power is there, but actually everybody is treated equally. So both parties are exploring and understanding each other's lived experience and how they can use those experiences to create change within a big system. So I see it as something that's really powerful when used in the inclusion space, and it brings a human element and the relationship element more powerfully into mentoring.
Every day people go to work, they experience oftentimes on a micro level or on a macro level discriminatory treatment, whether microaggressions, whether it's somebody telling a joke that they think is funny, it's somebody not listening to the voices of certain groups in the room, marginalising them. There are many ways in which discrimination gets played out on a day-to-day basis.
I feel a little frustrated when other staff and senior leaders don't consider differences that any individual can bring. Everyone's different, they can have their own perspective and can bring really valuable contributions if they're allowed to be included. I think also, to be fair, senior managers and others don't always know that a difference needs to be taken into account. So I'm really keen to contribute when there's opportunities for open discussions which allow differences to be valued.
When I'm listened to and my needs are met, I feel valued, respected, and I feel like I'm equal to everyone else at the organisation. But I'm not listened to, I feel worthless, pushed out, and I feel pressured into do things I don't want to do.
As a business analyst, we produce various number of artifacts, documents or so. And it's natural for at times to be bounced back to say, okay, this doesn't meet a certain criteria, this doesn't meet a certain requirement or so. So that's fine, that's business as usual, and as business analysts we're expected to be in that field. However, there is a transition, there is a point where you feel that some of the contributions that you're making perhaps aren't valued as much, and you think, okay, somebody else in a similar position to me, on the same banding as well, and a business analyst as well, has projected the same information, perhaps half an hour earlier or half an hour later, and I think, okay, how come his views were readily accepted?
So I used to work in an all-male team. It was all-male heterosexual team, and by and large, we always got on, had a good laugh as a team, worked well together, had a shared purpose, and it was a very successful team to be part of. And they used to organise to go out for drinks, and we'd go out for drinks, or we'd, go to the pub. We might go out for a meal or something like that. And then there were a few times where they would arrange to go and watch the football, and I wouldn't get invited.
For me, in my personal experience, in a previous job, I started the new job. I had just started transitioning, so I was turning up in a female role. But some members of staff raised questions around which toilet I was using, and they weren't particularly happy that I was using the women's toilets. It was done fairly discreetly behind my back, but I was kind of brought into it, and there was suggestion around me using the disabled toilet. I didn't feel comfortable, I'm not disabled, using the toilet. So, for me it was, well, I use the women's toilets. That's the toilets I use if I'm outside work. So what's the issue inside work?
Then you start to see a pattern emerging, and you think, okay, if I say something, am I being seen as being obstructionist, or am I seeing as, okay, this guy's always a hot potato, try and don't place him in assignments or projects where there's we're challenging something huge, something which is has been demanded by the minister or so. So let him sit on projects where he makes a difference, but it's not a huge difference.
And I questioned one of my colleagues and said, "Oh, why wasn't I invited?" I said, "I'm not particularly bothered about it, but I'm just curious why I didn't get the invite." And it was, "Oh, well, you don't like football, do you?" And I was like, "Well, no, I don't like football, but when 7 out of 8 people in a team are going to the pub to watch the football together, that kind of sends a message, and that's not a conscious effort on anyone's part, I don't think, but it's one of those things where actually there's an underpinning kind of like implication of, we didn't invite you, and whilst there's nothing negative on their side, it can build up a resentment or a kind of feeling of being left out, of not being included.
And so the decisions are made several levels above, and you don't get any way to contribute into them. And I think what makes that situation worse is quite a lot of the senior leaders are from very similar backgrounds, so they end up with this groupthink mentality, and then even if one senior manager spots that actually, it's something needs to be done differently or could be done differently if we just ask someone the right questions and stuff, that doesn't get heard because the majority are going one direction, and so to stand out, it's a bit more difficult.
Well, mentoring's been used in loads of different arenas. It's been used in education, in business, in the public sector, in the military, and there's quite a lot of published evidence around the impact that mentoring can have, and that powerful learning tool to actually give people insight and help them make behaviour change. Around inclusion, there is actually quite a lot of experience, and there's literature certainly from Australia, the UK, USA and India around schemes where it has actually had a really positive impact in terms of creating a community and organisations that really accept and value the power of difference. And that's really what we're trying to do with this programme. So it does feel like a very appropriate tool.
They're going to start doing things differently, and as they start doing things differently, different things will happen. They will learn from those things, and that will be shared amongst the reciprocal mentoring community, which actually is not an isolated community. It is the most senior leaders of the organisation, and it is people or the most diverse parts of the organisation coming together. So that's huge. What the potential that has is huge, and it's of great significance. So the idea of the reciprocal mentoring programme is to say, yes, we need change. We need to go further than we've gone before. We need to think differently to what we thought before. Simple notions of bureaucratic, top-down, structural approaches to change aren't enough. We need something that is dynamic, that is living, that is vital, that is human, that is relational, that does not make some people think you're the good guy and I'm the bad guy, but that this is our mutual endeavour to create an organisation that is fit to house the human spirit.
I think sometimes as you rise through the levels in any organisation, you can forget what you started with, what your thought was on that first day, what you actually joined that organisation to do. So for me, it was a twofold thing. A, wanting to help, and also to just remind those people at the top, what is it that you joined to do? So whatever aspect of the NHS, policing, any other service, what is it you stepped into that organisation to do? And just perhaps be able to remind them of that. For people who are at whatever level, wherever you might be, you have a voice and you have an opinion, and that opinion can actually make a difference. You might have that golden nugget that makes somebody think a slightly different way that will achieve a better service.
First of all, mentoring a chief exec, it's a very good thing that has happened to me. It's a kind of like an eye-opener. I was able to converse with them on another level because looking at them at the hierarchy up there, I would have thought I don't have that opportunity or chance to meet with them or to kind of like talk to them face to face. But it's been a very kind of like calm situation that they know they're not they're not really what we think they are. They're very approachable, they listen, and they act on things you said. But because of our perspective, probably maybe as Black ethnic minority or junior staff, you think that your voice will not be heard, but it's not the case.
I don't know if it was a bigger challenge for her or for me, because I would sort of assume my role as a chief executive and then check myself and try to step back. But we both encouraged each other to do the wrong thing most of the time. So it was a constant challenge, really. I had to try and think, hang on a minute, I'm the mentee, I'm learning from you. And sometimes I was encouraging her. So come on, you're the mentor. And the same was happening in reverse. It isn't easy. It's a really difficult thing to do, but it's so worth it. The dividends it pays, the benefits that flow from it are amazing. So it's difficult, but it's worth doing.
But I'm enjoying just that challenging to thinking, I think, and time to stop and think of it, to talk about whatever the issues are, just from a different perspective, and not be the normal views that I'd sort of normally hear or go and look for. So I suppose that bit really, it's tricky to sort of pin it down, but you just come away going, wow, that was a really good conversation. It was just refreshing to have such a different conversation, I think.
As I've gone through this process, what I've really learned is I am privileged, and it's now a question of how I use that privilege. I think I've been fortunate enough to be white and middle class, and that's given me certain opportunities in life that maybe others haven't, but with that comes a responsibility to make a difference and really use that. So I'm really determined now more than ever to make a difference.
I've never thought I would be in any leadership or lead anything, but being in this program, it's opened my eyes to say, if I want to do something, I can lead on something.
There is nothing to lose here. I think everything to gain. It's about learning from a different person's perspective, and it's an amazing opportunity. And I think my personal involvement is very early, but it's a real privilege to be in a position where someone comes into a space with you and you build that trusting relationship to have really open conversations, and the opportunities for growth and development for both of you are, I think, second to none.
Can I just add as well, so for me, the other piece of learning as an OD practitioner is diversifying my thinking as a practitioner, and the impact that I can then have in my other work streams has been far greater when it comes to talent management, when it comes to staff engagement and the other things that we can influence. So as a practitioner, definitely something to get involved in.
The ones right at the top actually want the change, but it's the middle layers that's blocking. So once we can get they listen to top-down approach. And then if we can sort of like get past that, then there'll be like room for all of us to sort of like progress. I mean, I've got people in my network who have got masters and they're on a band 4.
Somebody once asked me, why do they have gay bars and why do they have gay pride? And I answered the question really simply. I said, well, have you ever sat in a pub and watched a brick come through a window? Or have you ever been sworn at or spat at in the streets? To which the answer is usually, well, no, of course they've not. And I said, well, that's why there's gay bars and that's why there's gay pride, because there has to be until everybody's accepted, because everybody isn't accepted and we know that.
I guess the question you have to ask yourself is, if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? Gandhi once said, everybody wants the world to change, but nobody wants to step into being part of that change. And so until you, until me, until many more like us find the courage somewhere to come onto a programme that will help us find even more courage, then our aspiration for change will remain just that. Because if I'm not prepared to do it, but I would like everybody else to do it, what happens if everybody else feels the same way? So have a think. If you're wavering, have a chat. Come and chat to me, come and chat to the team, chat to somebody in your organisation, but don't waver in silence, find your voice.
Sometimes we make assumptions on behalf of our leaders, and those assumptions are not necessarily, they're not even halfway near correct. So it's having those conversations with them that you realise that the things that you think they're aware of, sometimes they are not aware of. And it takes someone actually wanting to have the conversation to make them aware. And if you don't speak up, they will not be aware. It's as simple as that for me.
We really do need to learn, and this is a program of learning, how to show up differently as leaders at all levels of the system, thinking about how do I show up differently so that through my leadership, I am building a legacy of inclusion.
So my hope is that if my now 9-year-old daughter grows up and chooses the NHS as her employer of choice, that she will feel she can bring her whole self to the organisation. My daughter is 9 at the moment. She is female, she is of colour, and she has a hidden disability which presents some challenges to her health. If she could bring her whole self to the NHS and feel safe, feel heard, and feel that her difference actually brings a positive impact on the system, I would be delighted. That would be my hope.